Chapter 6. Harris makes scrambled eggs. As soon as the cover was in place, we started to prepare supper. We wanted some hot water to make tea. We put the tea kettle on the stove. We pretended that we were not interested in the water. We wanted the water to think that we did not care about it. We began to prepare supper. This was the only way to make the water boil on a boat. If the water knows you are waiting for it, it will never get hot. You must not look at it. It's a good idea to shout, "I don't want any tea. Do you, George?" George shouts back,
"Oh no, I don't like tea. I'll have milk."
"And you, Harris?"
"Tea is terrible. I never drink it. I'll have lemonade."
This makes the water very angry. At this point, the water will boil. We really wanted that supper. We needed that supper. For 35 minutes, nobody spoke. We just ate and ate. Finally, we all had full stomachs and we were happy. A full stomach makes you feel kind and generous. We sat and smiled at each other. We smiled at Montmorency too. We started smoking our pipes and began to talk. We went to bed at 10 o'clock. I didn't sleep well. I wasn't comfortable in the boat. I woke up at 6 o'clock the next morning, and George did too. There was no reason to wake up so early. We were on holiday. Why did we wake up so early? It never happens to us when we're working. We decided to wake up Harris. This was hard work. We used an oar to help us. Harris moved a bit and said,
"I'll be downstairs in a minute. Get my best boots ready, please."
We tried again with a boat hook. Harris sat up suddenly and Montmorency fell off the bed. We pulled up the canvas cover and all four of us looked out at the river. We were very cold. We had planned to go swimming, but the water looked so cold and wet.
"Well, who's going swimming first?"
asked Harris. No one wanted to be first. George decided to get dressed. Montmorency barked with horror at the idea. Harris went to look for his trousers. I decided to go to the river bank and throw some water on myself. I held on to the branch of a tree as I moved to the water. It was very cold, and I decided not to wet myself. I wanted to go back to the boat. But suddenly, the branch of the tree broke. I fell into the river along with my towel. I also drank about a bottle of Thames water.
"Good heavens! Old J is in the water,"
Harris said.
"How's the water?"
George asked. "It's lovely," I answered. "Why don't you come in?" Nobody wanted to try the water. When I got back to the boat, I was very cold. I wanted to put on my shirt, but it fell into the river. This made me angry. George started laughing. "I don't see anything to laugh at," I said. George laughed even more. I never saw a man laugh so much. I was cold and furious. I was trying to get my shirt out of the river. George was laughing louder and louder. "Stop laughing, you stupid idiot!" I shouted. When I finally pulled the shirt out of the river, I saw that it wasn't mine. It was George's shirt. I started laughing too. I laughed so much that I dropped the shirt into the river again.
"Aren't you going to get it out?"
said George, who continued laughing. I didn't answer him for a while because I was laughing so much. At last I said, "It isn't my shirt. It's yours." I never saw a man's face change so quickly.
"What?"
he shouted.
"You donkey! Why can't you be careful with things? Why don't you go and get dressed on the riverbank? People like you don't know how to live on a boat."
I tried to tell him how funny it was, but he didn't understand. George is a little slow at understanding a joke sometimes. Harris said,
"I'm cooking scrambled eggs for breakfast this morning. Once people try my scrambled eggs, they always want them."
He was quite famous for his scrambled eggs. George and I got the stove and the frying pan ready. Then we looked for the eggs that weren't broken. We found only 6 of them. "Now you can start," we said. Breaking the eggs was difficult for Harris. The eggs got on his trousers and went up his arms. He put 6 eggs into the frying pan. Then he sat down by the stove and mixed them with a fork. George and I saw that it was difficult work. Harris often burnt his fingers. Then he danced around the stove. He waved his hands in the air and shouted. George and I thought that this was an important part of his cooking method. We didn't know what scrambled eggs were. We thought they were some sort of Red Indian food, and to cook them correctly, it was necessary to do special dances with magic words. Montmorency went to put his nose over the frying pan once and burnt himself. He too began dancing around and barking. It was interesting and exciting to watch this show. George and I were sorry when it was finished. When the scrambled eggs were ready, there was very little to eat. 6 eggs had gone into the pan, but all that came out was a teaspoon full of burnt eggs.
"The problem is the frying pan,"
Harris said.
"I need another type of pan and another stove."
We decided not to try scrambled eggs again until Harris had the right pan and stove. Chapter 7. The Laughing Tin. When we finished breakfast, the sun was up, and it was a warm morning. I sat on the river bank near Runnymede. I thought about King John, who signed the Magna Carta at Runnymede in 1215. What a great moment in English history! I imagined the scene. George came over and said,
"When you finish resting and dreaming, please help me wash the dishes and other things."
I cleaned the frying pan with some grass and with George's wet shirt. Later on, we went to Magna Carta Island. We saw the stone where the Magna Carta was signed. In this area, King Henry VIII met with his sweetheart, Anne Boleyn. I am certain that King Henry VIII met with Anne Boleyn in several other places too. We continued slowly up the river and stopped for lunch near Monkey Island. We had cold meat for lunch. "Where's the mustard?" I asked.
"The mustard?"
Harris said. We had forgotten to bring the mustard. At that moment, we all wanted mustard more than anything in the world.
"How boring life is without mustard,"
said George. We ate our cold meat in silence. We thought about the happy days of childhood when there was lots of mustard on the table. The adult world can be a cruel place. All three of us loved tinned fruit. George brought out a tin of pineapple. This was perfect to make us forget the mustard. We felt that life was smiling at us again.
Look at the picture on the tin,
said Harris. Ah, I can't wait, I said.
I'm dreaming about the sweet juice,
George said. Harris got a spoon ready. Then we looked for the tin opener. We took everything out of the two hampers. We took everything out of the bag. We looked in every corner of the boat. There was no tin opener. Harris tried to open the tin with a little knife, and he cut himself. George tried to open it with a pair of scissors. The scissors flew up and almost cut his eye. I tried to open it with a piece of metal. I did something wrong because I fell into the river. The tin flew away and broke a teacup. Then we all got angry. I started hitting the tin with a piece of wood. Harris hit the tin, and so did George. We changed its shape. We made it square. We made it round. Then we made it flat. But we still couldn't open it. The tin looked at us and seemed to be laughing. It was ugly, and it frightened us. I threw it in the river. Then we rowed away and didn't stop until we reached Maidenhead. It was evening, and a strong wind started blowing. The wind was behind us, and we put up the sail quickly. The wind blew, and the boat flew up the river. I was steering the boat, and George and Harris were enjoying the trip. Sailing is exciting. It's almost like flying. You feel that you are part of nature. We were alone, and we flew along the river. Far in the distance, we saw a small fishing boat. There were 3 fishermen in it. The sun was going down, and there was a red light on the water. The river seemed magic. It was like a dream. We felt that we were sailing into a strange land. We did not sail into a strange land. We sailed straight into the fishing boat with the 3 old fishermen. At first, we didn't know what was happening, but when we heard the bad words that came from the other boat, we knew we were near people. We also knew that those people were not happy. The 3 old fishermen fell off their seats. There were fish all over them. They slowly tried to get up. As they did this, they cursed us. They didn't curse us with common curses. They used long, special curses. They also cursed our parents, families, friends, neighbours, pets, and jobs. These curses were for the present and the future. Harris stood up and said,
"Be thankful for a bit of excitement in your lives. Your lives must be so boring, just sitting and fishing all day. My friends and I are very unhappy to hear men of your age use such bad words."
The 3 old men did not agree with Harris.
I'll steer the boat now, Jay,
said George.
An intelligent man like you must do better things. Leave the steering to me before we all drown.
Chapter 8. Montmorency meets a cat. At Marlow, we left our boat by the bridge. We spent the night at the Crown Hotel. The next morning, we went swimming before breakfast. On the way back, Montmorency met a cat. Montmorency and I don't agree on cats. I like cats. Montmorency doesn't. When I meet a cat, I stop and say hello. I pet it gently. The cat is happy, and I am too. When Montmorency meets a cat, the whole street knows about it. A lot of bad words fly through the air. As soon as Montmorency saw the cat, he barked with happiness. The cat was walking slowly across the street. Montmorency ran after the cat, but the cat didn't run. He didn't understand that his life was in danger. This cat was big and black. It had half a tail, half a nose, and only one ear. It was a clever street cat. Montmorency is a courageous dog, but the cold eyes of that cat terrified him. The cat stopped in the middle of the road and looked at Montmorency. Neither spoke, but the conversation was probably like this.
Yes? You want me? Can I do anything for you?
No, thanks.
If you really want something, please tell me.
Oh, no, not at all. Don't disturb yourself. I'm afraid I made a mistake. I thought I knew you. Sorry I disturbed you.
Not at all. It's a pleasure. Are you sure you don't want anything now?
No, thanks. Nothing at all, thanks. Very kind of you. Good morning.
Good morning.
The cat got up and walked away. Montmorency came back and followed us quietly. He was silent all day long. To this day, if you say the word cats to Montmorency, he'll stop walking. Then he'll look up at you as if to say, "Please don't." After this, we did our shopping, returned to the boat, and continued our trip up the river. At Hambledon Lock, we discovered that we had no water. We went to the lockkeeper to ask for some. George spoke for us. With a friendly smile, he asked,
"May we have some water, please?"
Certainly,
said the old lockkeeper.
Take as much as you want, and leave the rest.
Thank you very much,
said George, looking around.
Where is the water?
It's where it always is,
said the lockkeeper.
It's behind you.
George turned around and looked.
I don't see it.
What? Where are your eyes?
The lockkeeper said. He took George's arm and turned him round.
Oh,
George said.
But we can't drink the river.
No, but you can drink some of it,
said the lockkeeper.
I've drunk river water for the past 15 years.
Well, sir, I don't think you look very healthy after drinking all that river water. But thank you anyway,
George said. We left the lockkeeper's place and we found some water at another house. We towed the boat past Henley and stopped near Wargrave for lunch. We were sitting in a green field near the river. Harris was cutting a meat pie. George and I were waiting with our dishes.
I need a spoon,
said Harris. The hamper was behind us. George and I both turned around to get a spoon. In 5 seconds, we had the spoon. When we turned back, Harris and the meat pie were gone. Disappeared. It was a wide, open field. There were no trees nearby. Harris did not fall into the river, because the river was far from us. George and I looked all around. Then we looked at each other. "Has he gone up to heaven?" I asked.
"Angels don't take meat pies to heaven,"
George said. "You're right," I agreed.
"Then there's been an earthquake,"
George said.
"I'm sorry he had the meat pie with him."
Sadly, we looked at the place where Harris and the meat pie were sitting. Then, with horror, we saw Harris's head. only his head. It was in the grass. His face was red and furious. George was the first to speak.
Say something. Are you dead or alive? Where is your body?
Oh, don't be an idiot,
Harris shouted.
I think you made this happen. You told me to sit there. It's your stupid joke. Here, take the pie.
Harris didn't know it, but he was sitting next to a big hole. The long grass covered it. He fell into the deep hole without knowing anything. At first, he thought that it was the end of the world. Harris still thinks that George and I planned it all. Chapter 9. Fighting Swans. After lunch, a gentle wind pushed us up the river past Wargrave and Ship Lake. We got out of the boat at Sunning and walked around the village. Sunning is a lovely village. Everything is clean and beautiful. Each house is covered with roses. We decided to return to one of the Ship Lake Islands to spend the night. George said,
Let's have a special supper tonight. Let's make an Irish stew. We can put everything into one big pan.
What a wonderful idea,
Harris and I said.
I'll get the wood and make a fire,
George said.
You two can peel the potatoes.
This was a very big job. We were happy and excited, but when we peeled our first potato, we understood that this was not exciting. It was hard work. The first potato we peeled looked like a pea. George looked at it and said,
No, there's no potato left. Do it like this.
We worked hard for half an hour, but we peeled only 4 potatoes. We refused to continue.
Well, just put the potatoes in without peeling them. Let's add some carrots and other vegetables. Look in the hampers and take out all the pieces of old food. We'll put them in the stew. You can put anything in a stew.
We found half a pork pie, a tin of fish, and a few broken eggs. We added these to the stew. Montmorency watched us carefully and then left. After a while, he returned with a dead rat in his mouth. He wanted to add something to the stew too. We discussed it first. Harris said,
It's all right to add the dead rat. It will be mixed with the other things. A stew needs many ingredients.
George said,
Well, I don't want to try anything new. Maybe next time. I'm sorry, Montmorency.
Harris said,
If you never try anything new, you'll never discover things. It's men like you, George, who slowed down the progress of our world.
George didn't listen to Harris. The stew was a great success. It was delicious, excellent in every way. We all really enjoyed it. After the Irish stew, George and I decided to go to Henley for an evening walk. Harris wanted to stay on the boat and drink a whiskey. When we returned to the boat, Harris was sad and confused.
What happened to you, Harris?
Swans,
he said. We had left the boat near a swan's nest. When George and I were in Henley, Mrs. Swan came back to the nest. She started to shout at Harris. Harris frightened her away. She went to get her husband, Mr. Swan. Harris had a terrible fight with these 2 swans. Harris finally won the fight. However, half an hour later, Mr. and Mrs. Swan returned with 18 other swans. There was a horrible fight. The swans attacked Harris and tried to pull him off the boat. They wanted to drown Harris and Montmorency. Harris fought with courage for 4 hours. In the end, he killed them all. Then they slowly swam away to die.
How many swans were there?
George asked.
32,
said Harris, who was sleepy.
But you said 18 before,
George said.
No, I didn't. I said 12. Do you think I can't count?
We never discovered the truth about the swans. We asked Harris about it the next morning. He said,
What swans?
He thought that George and I were dreaming. That night, Harris had trouble sleeping. He woke me up about 12 times during the night. He was looking for his clothes. George woke up too.
Why do you need your trousers? It's the middle of the night,
George said. Later, Harris was looking for his shoes. Then he asked for his socks and his umbrella. We woke up late the next morning. We had a small breakfast, and we were ready to go. We agreed that we would row the boat and not tow it. Harris said,
George, you and Jay can row. I'll steer.
I didn't like this idea, and I said, No, Harris, you and George row so that I can rest. I was doing too much work on this trip. I always think that I work too much. It's not because I don't like work. I love it. I find it very interesting. I can sit and look at it for hours. You can't give me too much work. I like collecting it. My office is full of it. I'm very careful with my work too. Some of the work in my office has been there for years. It is in perfect condition. It isn't dirty or anything. That's because I take good care of it. Harris said,
On this boat, I'm the only one who works.
George said,
You do nothing but eat and sleep, Harris. I'm the only one who works. You and Jay are very lazy people.
Harris laughed and said,
George, work? Have you ever seen George work?
I agreed with Harris. George never worked.
How do you know if I work, Harris? You're always sleeping except at meal times. Have you ever seen Harris awake except at meal times?
George asked me. I agreed with George. Harris worked very little on the boat.
Oh, please. I do more work than old Jay,
Harris said.
Well, it's difficult to do less work than old Jay,
George added.
Old Jay thinks he's a passenger and doesn't need to work,
Harris said. After this discussion, I said to Harris, You and George row the boat up to Reading. At Reading, I'll tow it. Chapter 10. 3 men out of a boat. We reached Reading at about 11 o'clock. The river here is very dirty, so we moved on to Streatley. We stayed at Streatley for 2 days. We took our clothes to a laundry woman. We had tried to wash them in the river, as George told us. The river was so dirty that our clothes collected all the dirt from the water. The river became cleaner, but our clothes became dirtier. The laundry woman was very surprised to see such dirty clothes. She looked at them and said,
This will cost you 3 times the usual price.
We agreed and paid her. The river near Streatley and Goring is excellent for fishing. It is full of different types of fish. Some people sit and fish there all day. However, they never catch any fish. The local fisherman's guidebook doesn't say anything about catching fish. It only says that the place is a good fishing area. And it is. You can see many fish swim past, but you can't catch them. When you go for a walk by the river, you can see hundreds of fish. They come and stand half out of the water. Their mouths are open for bread. If you go swimming, they come to look at you and disturb you. You cannot catch them, however. We passed by Wallingford and Dorchester. Both are ancient British towns. In the days of the Roman Empire, the Romans camped here and built fortifications. We spent the night at Clifton Hampden, which is a pretty village. We finally arrived at Oxford and spent 2 excellent days there. Oxford is a beautiful town with its old university. Oxford is also full of dogs. Montmorency was very happy. He had 11 dog fights on the first day and 14 on the second day. He probably thought he was in heaven. We left Oxford on the 3rd day to return home to London. When we left Oxford, it was raining. The rain continued without stopping. When it's sunny, the river is a dream. But when it's rainy, the river is brown and unfriendly. It rained all day. At first, we pretended to enjoy it. Well, this is a nice change. Too much sunshine is boring. Nature is beautiful even when it rains, I said.
Yes,
Harris said.
it's good to see the river in all kinds of weather. The rain is good for you. I can't understand people who are afraid of a little rain.
Harris and I sang songs, and we were quite happy. George did not agree. He stayed under the umbrella. We put up the canvas cover before lunch. We left a little opening to see where we were going. We continued our trip for another 9 miles. We stopped for the night at Day's Lock. We did not have a happy evening. The rain never stopped. Supper was not good. We were really tired of cold meat. We dreamt about our favourite foods. Harris talked about fish cooked in a special sauce. Harris gave his cold meat to Montmorency. He looked at it and turned his head. He seemed insulted by Harris's offer. He went to sit at the other side of the boat, alone. George said,
Please don't talk about good food until I finish this cold meat.
We played cards after supper. After that, we had some hot water and whiskey. George told us about a man he knew. This man had slept on the river in a wet boat, like ours. He got very ill and died 10 days later. Of course, we began talking about other illnesses. After a while, Harris said,
I've got an awful headache. It must be the rain.
Well, I've got a bad backache, I said. To make us feel happier, George sang to us. That made Harris and I cry, and it made Montmorency howl. There was nothing else to do, so we went to bed. We didn't sleep well at all. We were awake at 5 o'clock the next morning. Our second rainy day was the same as the first. It rained all day. We moved slowly along the river. We agreed to continue our trip, even if it killed us.
It's only 2 more days,
Harris said.
We're young and healthy. Maybe we'll be all right.
We talked about our evening. With this weather, we can have dinner and take a walk in the rain. Or we can have dinner and spend an hour in a pub, I said.
That's not very exciting,
said George.
It's much more interesting to go to the Alhambra Theatre in London,
said Harris. And then have supper at that little French restaurant, I added.
But we have decided to stay and die on this boat,
said George.
However, there's a train that leaves Pangbourne after 5 o'clock. It gets to London in time to eat something and then go to the theatre.
Everyone was silent. We didn't say one word. We looked at one another Then we got out the big bag and got our clothes ready. 20 minutes later, 3 men and a dog were going to the railway station. We lied to the boatman at Pangbourne. We didn't have the courage to tell him the truth. We were running away from the rain. We asked him to take care of the boat until the next morning. If something happens, we'll write to you, we said, telling him a big lie. We reached Paddington Station at 7 o'clock. We went directly to the restaurant and had a small meal. Montmorency stayed at the restaurant while we went to the theatre. We'll return at 10:30 for the dog and for a good supper, I told the restaurant owner. The man at the ticket office of the theatre said,
"Oh, you're the famous acrobats from the Himalaya Mountains. You're late for the performance. Please use the side door."
We explained to him that we were not acrobats. He understood and sold us 3 tickets. Our clothes probably looked a bit old and strange. At the Alhambra Theatre, everyone looked at our clothes and smiled. Some people laughed. After the theatre, we went back to the restaurant. We enjoyed our delicious supper. After 10 days of eating cold meat, we were thankful for this supper. We ate it without speaking. Then we sat back and felt happy and kind. Harris, who was sitting next to the window, pulled back the curtain. He looked at the wet street. It was rainy and dark. The wind was blowing. A few people walked past under their umbrellas. Harris took his glass and said,
"Well, we had a good trip, and I say thank you to old Father Thames. But I think we were right to come back when we did. Here's to 3 men well out of a boat."
Montmorency stood on his back legs in front of the window. He looked at the wet night and gave a short bark of agreement.